All right, so we are recording. All right, so we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we might be able to get her done here on Zoom. And I'm just going to ask everybody to please put your phone or your computer, whichever device that you're on, just put it on mute, okay? Just so that way, we're not interrupting Jana while she is sharing with us. So let's do that. We'll take a minute to let everybody do that. In the meantime, thank you, Jana, also for being so patient as we figure this out. But I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself. And like I share with all of our guests, you can go back as far as you want, or, you can tell as much of your story as you want to, or as little, so I will just kind of let you take the mic, and I'm actually going to go on mute so that way I don't interrupt you either.
Okay.
And then if anybody has any questions, there is an option for the chat. Please put your questions in the chat and we will come back to them at the end of the video. And then we'll talk about it. So awesome. All right. I'll let you take.
Are you ready? Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Hey. Okay. Hello again. My name is Jana Wolf Necklace. I'm an enrolled member from Standing Rock here. I am 45 years old with 5 children. Let's see. First of all, thank you, Brooklyn, for getting this going and having this platform for people to share their stories and their experience, or their lived experience, I would say. It's a way of keeping everybody connected, or letting people find a connection, and that's really important to have. So I grew up here and I've lived here pretty much my whole life. Growing up, I don't remember being like really exposed to a lot of alcohol and drugs when I was little. I remember parties here and there, when I was, but just it wasn't like an all the time thing, it wasn't, it's just like vague memories that I have of certain times, and growing up, I watched my mom at the time. Then I didn't know that my mom and dad were growing up too, so I see things a lot differently now than when I did, years ago. And I used to always want to have someone to blame, or someone to be mad at for the way that I was, or the way that I turned out, or the way that, the things I was going through and this and that, but they were growing up too. So when I look back now, things are a lot different. So my mom was married to my dad, and there was 3 of us girls. They divorced, and she got remarried. And like I said, going from, I don't know. I think that was a big thing too, is not having my dad around. I know that really, because I didn't know this. Huh? There she is. And I'll accept it. AJ said, thank you. I forgot where I was at. Anyway, so like I said, growing up, I wasn't really I don't remember being around a lot of alcohol. I did experience some at a really young age, some abuse, and dealing with things like that is really hard, especially when at a really young age. You don't know who to tell, you don't know who to talk to. You feel guilty, you feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed, and then you go through things like that, and you stuff it, you put it away and think that you're never gonna have to deal with deal with it, but that doesn't work. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it starts to come out all over everything else. Anyway, so having that and dealing with leaving one, I don't know how to say it, like one family to another, getting a new dad, not leaving my other dad. Like, I don't know if that really played a big thing because I still saw them, I still saw him. Um, um, but like other things that I was going through, like I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know how to be who I was, or maybe I didn't even know. I When my mom got remarried, the guy that my stepdad, we owned a liquor store, or he owned a liquor store, and experimenting with alcohol came at a really young age for me. And nobody forced me, nothing, it was just me wanting to try it. And I liked the way alcohol made me feel. Like it made me feel different. It made me feel I don't know. It made me feel like it wasn't me. It made me feel like I was somebody else, and I started to like that feeling. And I started to, and I was really young. I was only like, geez, I think I was only like 13 or 14 when I started drinking alcohol, and I was smoking cigarettes, and it just went on like that, and I started to do it a lot more and more. And then I was starting to get in a lot of trouble. I was starting to get bad grades. I was starting to get into fights, and I was in jail a lot. Um, my mom used to have to come and get me when they couldn't keep us in jail anyway when we were teenagers, but um, she was always having to come get me. My poor mom, I put her through a lot. Um, so, so having that, like I liked alcohol. It was my best friend. I'm gonna say that right now. Like that's all I looked forward to pretty soon was drinking. Um, so when I was 21, I had my first kid, my first son. I was in a relationship with this guy. The booze was still happening, on weekends. I thought I had control of my life. Um, I would get pregnant again, and I'd have another son. And, the drinking was still there, hopping from job to job, not having any kind of control. I thought I did, but I didn't, and I didn't know then, like my whole life was already spiraling out of control, and I didn't think it was, my kids were being left here and there. Um, my kids, like I was present. I wasn't present with them. Like I was there, but I wasn't there. Um, I was still drinking around them, leaving them with different people when they were really young, my two boys. When I had Helen, um, when I had Helen, not long after I had Helen, that's when I started experimenting with the pills, the opiates. I got first I got sick and I was getting my own prescriptions for painkillers. It was really, really easily to get. I got hooked on them really easily. I was addicted to hydrocodone, Percocet. It ended up being at the end, though, it ended up being Dilaudid and morphine. Those were the things that I was seeking out, and my kids were still just babies, and I was doing that. And I didn't think I had a problem. I didn't think it was a big deal, because I was still working, and I was still going to school, and I still graduated from college, and so in my mind, it was okay. The life I was living and the things that I was doing was okay, and nobody else was going to tell me any different, um, it was easy for me to justify the things I was doing and just so I could keep doing them, I guess. Um, I had two more sons later on. by then, I was severely addicted to my medication, my opiates. I was doing anything and everything, to get them. Um, I was still in and out of a relationship that wasn't healthy. It was really toxic and it was really abusive. So that's another reason I used a lot for that, to find a way out of the reality that I was living, you know, in that moment. Like, um, I had already been using pretty heavily, and then going through um, that relationship and the things that were happening was just it just added to it, I want to say. I didn't know how to reach out to anybody. I didn't know how to deal with it. I just knew that when I did those drugs, that it would take me out, it would take my mind away, it would take me somewhere else, and it helped me cope. It helped me um put up with it another day, I should say. That would continue. My life like that would continue for, I'd say, 12, 13 years, in and out, and not within that time I had went from opiates. I had gone from opiates, being addicted to pain pills, to being addicted to meth, to coke. um Still living. So I lost my house. I graduated from college. We were living on the campus, and I started going to school again. But by then my addiction was full blown by then, and school wasn't important to me anymore. My addiction was important. Finding my pills and everything else was more important. Um, so we lost that house. We had to move. We moved in with his family, and none of that seemed like a big deal to me. None of it seemed like um, that there was something wrong. In my mind, everything was still okay. My kids are still all together. We were all together yet, and it's just like, I think about it now, and it's just like I think about the stuff that I put my kids through, and where we are today, and I put them through a lot in the when we moved back. I really started to get into meth pretty heavily, and I started to lose relationships. I started to lose friendships. I started to neglect my kids, you know, a lot, all of them. I neglected them. I left them. We were all living in the country. We were all living with his family, and I would just leave them because I knew somebody there would always take care of them. When I left, I was in and out of their lives for years. I was in and out, was back and forth, and they took care of my kids. And I didn't think, not for one moment did I think that there was something wrong with me. Like, I was always still putting the blame on everybody else. I was still, blaming the other person for what I was going through, not ever seeing my part in it, not ever seeing the things that I was doing, and just never being accountable for my actions ever. Um, it got to a point where, I couldn't get a job. I couldn't keep a job. I was starting to lose things. Eventually lost my kids. I lost jobs. I lost family. You know, the road I was on was, pretty dark, and I didn't realize it at the time. I can't. Then I wouldn't have said that. Any of the stuff that I was going through was, it was just that I was just surviving, pretty much. That's all it was. Um, I started to steal from people. I started to steal right from my own dad when I would work at the bar. Like I said, we had a bar. And when I would work, I used to trade people alcohol for their pills or for meth, and it was easy for me to do that and not even think for one moment, what I was doing to him or what I was doing to my family. It's just my addiction had by then my addiction had full control of me. it wasn't wrong in my eyes. Everything that I was doing wasn't, to me, it wasn't wrong, and people knew I was on drugs and stuff. And even every time they would ask me, I would always say, I would deny it, and everybody knew, there was no way I could hide it. My parents started to change, and I started to lose all this weight, and I started to look, I wasn't me anymore, you know, um, things like that. Like, even though all that was happening and I was roaming around from place to place by myself without my kids, no, nothing, I still didn't think I had a problem, and I think I must have hit about 3 or 4 or 5 bottoms um, before I finally sobered up. And at the end there, one of the times I was in jail, um, I remember this too, because my mom was the only person that I could call. And like, I had lost touch with my sisters, my brothers, my mom, my dad, everybody, nobody wanted me around because of the shit that I was doing to them. I was stealing from them. I was lying to them. I was, manipulating them. So nobody wanted me around anymore. And I don't blame them. But I landed in jail in 2015. I landed in jail. And the only person that I could think of to call was my mom. And I couldn't even call her. She didn't answer the phone for me. I sat in jail. I got out of jail. I didn't have any socks or shoes on. And I remember that day, it was so freaking hot outside. And I remember walking from the jail to her house, and I had no socks on, no shoes on. And it was really hot, and um, I was so embarrassed, and the drugs had wore off. I had detox, like when I was sitting in jail, and I went to my mom's. I sat on her porch till she came back. And um, when she got home, she didn't want me there, and then she didn't want me there. She just didn't want nothing to do with me because I had put her through so much. And I asked her if she would help me. And she did, she did help me. She was the only one that would. And so I went to my mom. When I was at my mom's, I detoxed there. I think I slept for like almost a week. I slept for like a week, and I detoxed from all the drugs. I remember her coming in that room to check on me, and I think she was coming in to see if I was still breathing. And she was trying to get me to eat, and I couldn't. I was so sick. I was so sick coming off the pills and coming off the meth, and my body hurt, and I remember her looking over me, and she was so upset, and she was crying because, like, I can't imagine, like, I think about if I saw my daughter going through that. I think about things like, think about things like that now that I didn't then, and anyway, I have that memory, and I always think about that. And about, so it was like a week I was at my mom's going through that detox. And within that time, she had managed to get me an eval, help me get into treatment. By the next week, I was in treatment in Bismarck, and yeah, it was 2015. And I was there for like 6 weeks, I think. And for me, it was just a bed. For me, it was, in the beginning, it was just like, well, I have somewhere to be for 6 weeks. I don't have to worry about it till I'm going to finish treatment. Then I got to find somewhere else to go, because I had nowhere else to go. That's how my thinking was in the beginning. And then when we were in treatment, they had us going to all these meetings, and I never paid attention at these meetings, until one night, we were sitting at a meeting, and I was sitting in the back, and this woman was talking. And the things that she was talking about and the things that she had been through sounded so familiar, because it sounded like me, and I never did ever speak at those meetings because I didn't want no one to know nothing about me, and I didn't want no one judging me. I didn't want no one looking at me. And that's how my thoughts were. And, but when I heard that woman talking, you know, I listened to her. And then the next time, every time we went to that meeting, I would listen a little bit more. You know, I would listen more and more to the people that were in there in those rooms that were speaking. And I was thinking that there really are other people, you know, like me. And, you know, but I couldn't understand how they were talking about it like so easily, like how they were joking about it and how they were laughing and how they were this and that, you know. And I was just like sitting there just all, you know, Ms. looking and all um all angry and all hurt and all, you know what I mean? And anyway, so the meetings continued, you know, and that's what helped me. I finished treatment. Um, I was still going to the meetings. I didn't have right before I finished treatment, my counselors that I had in there knew that I had nowhere to go, and they knew that I didn't want to come back to Standing Rock. Because in my mind, you know, I didn't know this then, but in my mind, coming back here would be the worst thing for me to do, because this is where all the drugs are. This is where all the people are. This is where my, you know, my drug life is. That's what my mind was, you know. And so they helped me get this place at this shelter, um this homeless shelter. They helped me get a bed. I was there. They took me down there from treatment. They paid for the first 2 weeks. I think it was like $50 a week or something like that. And then it was at Ruth Myers in Bismarck. And I was assigned a case manager. I was drug tested. Breathalyzer, had to do a breathalyzer every night. You know, we had to be inside before 9 o'clock. During the day, you couldn't be there because you had to be out looking for a job, you know. And I didn't know where to go because I didn't know anybody up there. I was pretty much alone. Um, so I thought of that meeting that we kept going back to when I was in treatment, and that's where I went. I would go there, and they had meetings like all throughout the day. Like they had them like at 6 in the morning and at noon and at 4, and then they would have another one at 8. And like, so the first week or so, you know, when I was in Bismarck at that homeless shelter, that's what I was doing. I was just going to meeting after meeting after meeting. And I started to meet people. I started to kind of talk to people. And by then I had, you know, a few months of recovery. I had a few months sober by then. And I was still on my own. I was still looking for a job. I was walking around Bismarck, um, trying to fill out applications, and I didn't even have any IDs. I didn't have a birth certificate. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a driver's license, nothing. And I was still, you know, doing what I can to get by and just try to make it through another day. I was getting really lonesome. I remember at that time in my recovery, I was like really, really emotional. I was really missing my kids. I was really depressed and but I knew in my mind, I knew like that's what I wanted though, was to get my kids back, you know. And I think I just held on to that thought. And so then when I would make it through one day, I would, you know, tell myself, you made it through another day, you got to make it through another one, you know. And it was really hard for me. So I just kept going back to those meetings because I felt like I was starting to feel like I had a connection with a couple of those people that were in our rooms, you know, a couple of those women. And it got to the point where, you know, they were starting to help me. You know, they were starting to help me get things. They were helping me, you know. I was able to get the stuff I needed to find a job and this and that, just small things, but they were big at the time, you know. That little bit of help was huge then. So I was in that homeless shelter, and I remember being in there around Christmas time. And I was still alone. I had a little bit more time, you know. And by then, I think I was working. By then, I had put in job applications all over Bismarck. And this one place I kept going to do volunteer work, because that was another thing I started to do too, just to keep myself busy. I started volunteering at these different places in Bismarck. And this one place that I was volunteering at, this lady she was a manager then, she asked me if I wanted to apply for a part-time job. And so I applied, and she hired me. And So I had this job, and I was still living in this room, probably about as big as my living room, and with 7 other women. There was 8 of us. There was bunk beds, and my space was whatever I could fit in those couple drawers and under my bed. I lived there with them until I got that job, and I had a little bit of an income. And when I moved from part-time to full-time at that job, the guy that he was like a landlord or something there at Ruth Myers, because they have all these apartments there, that you can move into. And you have a case manager there. You have, all these people that are holding you accountable, And so I was able to move from that room with those 7
I
women.
changed my mind and
I was
had
able,
what do you call that? Taco salad.
taco
I
salad.
put it in the fridge.
Anyway, so when I got a full-time job, I went back and I told that guy that was like the landlord or whatever he was, and he moved me into one of those apartments. He moved me into, it was like a studio apartment. It was just like a living room, kitchen, dining room, bedroom. It was just like a little 1-bedroom thing, and it was really small. But I was so freaking proud of myself because it was mine, And by then, I was starting to have phone calls with my kids, because before, well, I couldn't talk to them. Every time I would call, they wouldn't let me talk to my kids, and which I know was they were doing that for them, because I had disappointed them so much, and I had hurt them so much, and that's why they were doing that. I understand that now. Anyway, so when I got that place, things started to get better, and like things were getting better. I got that job. I got that place. I got to talk to my kids. Things started to happen for me. And within all that time, and I still kept going to those meetings. I didn't talk right away though. I was just like listening, and I would talk with the people after and stuff. But it took me a long time to share. Anyway, in December of that first year of my recovery, I spent my first Christmas sober without my kids, but I was sober, and I remember missing them. I remember telling myself that next year, they're going to be with me. Next year I'm going to have my kids, and that was really a really hard time. That just really stands out to me. Anyway, so with that job, I went from part-time to full-time to assistant manager. And by then I had some time under my belt. I applied for a job down here in Standing Rock, because within that, whenever I was using and drinking and all that, I managed to get an early childhood degree, and I never used it for anything. So I applied for that job down here on Standing Rock, and at the school, and I got hired. And I remember by then I had 1 year, I was going on a year of sobriety. And when I had hit 1 year of sobriety, my mom and my sister and her husband got me a car. And it was just, I had to get my license, and someone helped me with that too. I got my license back. I had that car, I got that job. I was driving back and forth. Just the more time that I was getting, the more that I stayed sober, the more that I kept going to those meetings, my life started to change, and good things were happening. And I liked that feeling, and things just went from there. I got my kids back. We moved back to Standing Rock, and by then my mind had, like, I had it in my mind that, I used to tell myself, well, God will put me there when I need to be there. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to move back right away. Anyway, I moved home. I moved my kids in with me. I got custody of my kids. I was still working at the school. I was still active in my recovery, still going to meetings, still, meeting with my sponsor. That was like a big thing too at the meetings, was that I found a sponsor right away. And it was funny because I didn't really look for a sponsor. It was like a few months into my recovery, and I walked into this meeting, and this woman was just like, and she was the one that was always sharing and talking, and and just so happy to see me. And I remember like going into those meetings, and they always want to hug you, and I just remember being freaked out, like, hey God, don't hug me. Anyway. And she comes up to me and she hugs me, and she's just like, I'm going to be your sponsor. And I was just looking at her like, okay, and then that was it. Like, that's how I found the sponsor. That's how I found the sponsor. Anyway, we became really good friends, and she's seen me through a lot, and I've seen her through a lot. And that was a huge part of my support, and I did the 12-step program. I went through the steps, I went through the big book, I went, that was my recovery. Well, that's what helped me. I look back on it now, and I think about all the times that I went to treatment. I was never there for myself. I was never in treatment for myself. I went to get people off my back. I went to get people to leave me alone. I wanted, my mom to stop telling me to quit drinking. I went for my mom. I went for this person, but it was never for myself. Not until the end, not until I actually asked for help. So when I talk about, moving home, like now I know it doesn't matter where I'm at. It doesn't matter where I move to. It doesn't matter if I don't go to this place or this place. It's inside me. My addiction is me, and it's something that I have to work on every single day. And I used to think it was, if I go here, I'm going to get high. If I go over here, I'm going to drink, and those few times that I did go to treatment in the beginning, like I went to treatment and then I would come home, and then I went to treatment for drinking. So I would tell myself, well, I went for alcohol so I can get high. The next time I went to treatment, I was like, well, I went to treatment for pills so I can still go to the bar. That was my thinking. I went to treatment for drugs so I can go sit in a bar. Well, I did that. I did that too. I went and sat in the bar one of those times I came back from treatment, and I was right back where I started, because I got drunk and I was looking for dope, and that's it. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's what was different this time, was that, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit for myself. Today I have 7 years of recovery today. And, I have a relationship with my kids, a good relationship with my daughter. I've watched my kids. We've been through so much in these past 7 years. My kids have gone through, a lot, like me being gone all those times and being in and out of their life and hurting them like that. They carry that, and it took a toll on a couple of my kids. It comes out every now and then, like when we would be, they would be upset with me, or they would say something to me. They would be like, well, what do you know, you were gone? What do you know, you were gone all those years? Things like that. So those are the times, when they throw it in my face, I would have to tell them, I'm here now though, you don't have to forgive me, but I forgive myself, you know. So we go through a lot, yet our relationships are, they're a lot better than they were in the beginning of my recovery, I guess. But I get to be here. I get to be here to go through things like that with them. I get to be at their sports events. I get to be mom. I get to be present, I should say. That's what I'm trying to say, is that I get to be present every day with them. I don't, I don't look at them and lie to them anymore. I don't, it's just, life is a lot better. And every day that I'm sober, you know, I'm hoping that I'm mending that relationship with them, because that's what's important to me right now, is them, is making sure they're okay. But yeah, so today I don't work at the school anymore. I went from the school to the Head Start program. I was working as a supervisor up until about 6 weeks ago, I think. And I got a new job. I'm the education manager for the tribe now for the Head Start program. And so I've come a long way, work-wise. And none of this, if I wasn't working on myself every day, you know, none of this would be possible. I don't know. I would say, and people watching, you know, whatever you find that works for you, you know, because everybody's different. You know, some people go to A, some go to NA, some go to, you know, it's everybody's different. But I think that's what's important, is finding something that works for you, you know, something that works for you, and finding those people that are going to support you. And, you know, because that's what really helped me. And I think, I don't know, I think I'm done talking.
I know. I think now
Yeah, because
that
my son's like they're peeking out at me, and I'm just like,
you're distracting me. Just kidding.
yeah, they are. And I lost my train of thought like a few times, but yeah.
It's fine. You did great. Man, I mean, that's definitely have come through a lot. And so, you know, and just be proud of that. Like, that's honestly, I think because I myself have worked in child protection for several years, that is one of the most difficult things to do. And you have been able to overcome that and achieve that goal. And, you know, and because I don't know, I just feel like a lot of times, a lot of parents that I worked with, you know, I can't ever say that I ever worked with one parent that went to treatment the first time and got it, because it's not like this, these miracle sessions that you go to, you know, and it takes time. And I feel like a lot of times in the beginning, you know, when I was working with my parents, that they didn't understand that, you know, and it was like, oh, I'm going to go to treatment. It's going to fix me. I'm going to be better. And then I'm going to get my kids back, and, you know, and then go back into the same environment. And I mean, it's almost just like a sabotage, you know, and I saw that a lot, and it would break my heart every time, you know, because, you know, working with the parents that I work with, you know, you form a relationship, and you really want them to be successful, but it also, you know, you can't force anybody, you know, through something, you know, and like I said, treatment is not, you know, this place that you go to and you're magically healed, and, you know, all that. Like, it takes time, it takes investment. And I that's something that I would like a lot of the viewers to understand too, is that it takes time, and it's not an overnight thing. You don't go and then get fixed and then you're good for the rest of your life. You know, it's like you said a couple of times, like, you work on yourself every day. You like dedicate that time to work on yourself. And so that's something that I think is really important. I mean, I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense?
Was I making any sense?
Yes, you were. No, and
I
it's
lost
just
my
like,
train of thought a few times because my boys were
know.
peeking out at me, so I was like peeking out at me. So I was like,
I know this little kitty right here. This is my grandbaby. How about her name is Millie? Sure, it's
Oh
my
my
daughter.
gosh. So that's another thing too. Like if I I have a grandson, he's gonna be a year old next month. Like just think, I mean, like
Oh,
if I didn't sober up and find sobriety, like I wouldn't even be able to experience that. You know what I mean? That's like another blessing I'm really grateful for, you know?
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, this little one talking about distracting. She's down here biting my toes. I don't have no socks, no shoes, and I'm like, ah. So if you saw me kind of like wiggling around, it's her fault. So
I was trying not to look at the screen because it was distracting.
I know I do that too, and then I'm like yes, you know. So sorry, but I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? I think you did a really amazing job of just sharing everything. I always write stuff down and take notes because I want to come back to, you know, my thoughts and stuff. But I'm like thinking, I'm like, I don't even have any questions. So yes, thank you so much for just sharing everything. And Tommy, no worries. I see your little message in the chat. So I just, if anybody noticed, I don't know, whenever somebody would come on, I know it's hard to like mute right away. No worries. I just kind of went on ahead and just muted for you. So don't worry about it. And again, thank you guys so much for being patient with all our technical difficulties. But I think, you know, I kind of like this because it could be more interactive, you know, if we wanted it to be that way. And I don't know, does anybody have any questions? I guess I can open the floor. You know, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and just unmute and ask away. I want to give a couple minutes to do that. Just in case. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. So, yeah, I don't know. I just really appreciate you, and I really appreciate everybody that has joined us on these recovery roundtable sessions. And I feel like everybody's story is unique, and everybody's story just has been truly amazing. And there's a lot of people that will message afterwards and just so thankful. So and it's because of you, it's because of, you know, all the guests that we've had so far. You guys are the ones that are doing the work. It's not me. I'm just, you know, I'm just here, hosting, trying to host Facebook Live. But
yeah, and I think the Zoom turned out better, but still, like after those couple of tries.
I know. So, but yes, thank you so much. Everybody kind of came back, so I'm really glad. That everybody got to also enjoy, you know, this experience and listen. And yeah, I'm really thankful. Is there anything coming up? Any recovery events that you're aware of, or anything that we can share with everybody?
Not, I don't know. Not that I know of. I don't know.
Okay. And then is it okay if, you know, any of our viewers, if they have any questions, general questions, or even questions about meetings, can they message you directly?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well,
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Who is it?
I know that way.
Jana, I missed the whole first hour. Can you start over?
No.
Hi, Shalimar.
Hi, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say
Get
thank
on.
you and that I'm proud of you. But yeah, just want to say thank you and that I'm proud of you. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Shalimar.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so very much. And so if nobody else has any questions or anything, just if you think of something later, go ahead and just, you know, type it in the comments, and Jana will get back to you. And just putting you on the spot. Just kidding.
I know. Oh, that's fine.
And again, you know, I like to say from my lodge to your lodge, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much, Jana, for sharing your journey with the rest of us. And good night, everybody. All right. And we will see you all next week.
Thanks, Brooklyn.
We'll see ya.
Thanks, Jana.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for listening, guys.
Good, Dada.